My penis was oscillating between extremely sensitive and borderline traumatized.
This one's wife. Joe Rogan blasts the Prince of Pink Pancakes. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This one's wife and Prince Harry want to be taken seriously. This one's wife portrays a facade to the outside world of her being a businesswoman, of being kind, philanthropic, of somebody who is a thought leader. She doesn't really have a sense of humour. She wants to be taken seriously so that when she grabs that mic, you all listen to her and pay attention to what she has to say. As the beige bilge spews from her mouth and a tsunami of word salad cascades towards you, you are expected to remain awake as those fridge magnet platitudes wash over you. Similarly with Prince Harry, he takes himself seriously. Although he used to be the playboy prince, it's now been driven into him by his handler that it is important for him to make certain speeches so that the world takes them seriously, that they are seen as serious people, that people sit up and have regard to what they have to say, even though the fact is neither of them are of any real consequence. People only listen to Prince Harry because he happens to have been born a prince, and therefore there are some people, not all, that believe that affords the necessity of demonstrating a modicum of respect towards him. This one's wife believes because it's her that people ought to listen to her. She believes that because it's her, you all ought to pay attention, and that she is an important person. Why? Because it's her. Oh, and she's got a title, by the way. A title that she's not earned, a title that she just obtained not by birth, but simply by marrying old ginger bollocks. Unfortunately for the gruesome twosome, this image that they project of being serious players in the worlds of philanthropy, business and charity, of being noteworthy celebrities, regularly gets punctured by the ridicule that comes their way. On a daily basis, the piss is taken across social media in relation to their endeavours. Periodically, some of the mainstream news laughs at what they're up to. But to a greater extent, and which is all the more scathing for the gruesome twosome, is the response of other famous people. Accordingly, when Kevin Hart took the mick, that burns. When it was the case that South Park ridiculed them and Family Guy ridiculed them, that really gets to the gruesome twosome. It annoys Harry because he thinks he should be taken seriously, and it dents his pride, and it challenges this one's wife's need for control because she can't stand to be ridiculed because she doesn't understand that there is anything to ridicule in the first place. This one's wife thinks that she and Harry straddle the world as important people that are there to be respected. And once again, that image that she tries so hard to project has taken another kicking as a consequence of the ridicule that has come the way of the Prince of Pink Pancakes, courtesy of Joe Rogan. Martin Robinson writes in the Daily Mail, Joe Rogan has used his new Netflix stand-up show to savagely lampoon Prince Harry, calling him a bitch and joking about the royal taking magic mushrooms. Oh dear. Not being taken particularly seriously there. Invictus endeavours ignored. Centre barley work not noticed. The podcast star, 57, also mimicked the Duke of Sussex's British accent as he accused the California-based Windsor of talking shit about me, a reference to the Sussexes' public concerns about COVID misinformation on the Vaccine Skeptic Spotify show. Harry and this one's wife revealed they reached out to the music streaming giant to express our concerns. Assertion of control, facade management, in 2022, but did not split with the firm, who later declined to renew this one's wife's podcast Archetypes and the couple's $20 million exclusive deal. Notice, of course, with this one's wife, he and she, their principles only go so far when it comes to the issue of money. They express their concerns, but they don't actually vote with their feet. Why? Because the money is all the more important to this one's wife. And demonstrating her usual hypocrisy, as covered in Parts Passim, this one's wife speaks out about it in order to make herself look good, but doesn't walk the walk because she requires the money. On Mr. Rogan's new live stand-up show, Burn the Boats, released on Netflix in the United Kingdom and the United States this month, Joe mercilessly laid into Harry. He said, "I got cancelled so often during COVID that sometimes I would find out by accident. This is a true story. One time, I just woke up, I'm in my underwear. I plop down, turn the TV on, and Prince Harry's talking shit about me. I'm like, I just woke up. I'm vulnerable. I'm in my underwear, and there is a prince on TV talking about me." Mocking Harry's accent, he said to howls of laughter from the crowd, "He's like Joe Rogan is giving out dangerous vaccine information." And my first thought was, fuck, did I? He also mocked Harry by imagining what it would be like to take drugs with him, and then fantasised about hammering him over their row over vaccines while high on hallucinogens. New Jersey-born Mr. Rogan said he would get Harry tipsy and then encourage him to get high with him. "Could you imagine doing mushrooms with Prince Harry? You imagine if you could trick that guy into doing mushrooms with you," he said. "The moment you see him chew it and swallow it, there's a moment when you do mushrooms, like 20 minutes after you swallow it, when you know you can't throw it up anymore. And you're like, oh no, it's going to happen. And you're sitting eye to eye with the prince. And here's the thing. Mushrooms take about 40 minutes to kick in, but about 35 minutes in you hear them coming. You hear footsteps in the distance. Meanwhile, Prince Harry is tripping balls." To more laughter from the audience, he said, "I'm going to hover over him and say, 'Are you sure vaccines are safe? Bitch, you're not a scientist.'" Rogan's drugs dream came as the Duke of Sussex remains at the centre of a legal case over the issue. Donald Trump has previously suggested that Harry, who has lived in the United States since 2020, would not get special privileges and indeed may be deported if he is found to have falsified information on his visa form. In the Prince's memoir Spare, he revealed he previously took drugs, including cocaine, cannabis and psychedelic mushrooms, which under US law would typically be grounds for a visa application to be rejected. Thus, the image of the Sussexes gets another kicking, once again from the world-famous comedian Joe Rogan, who is one of the world's most noted podcasters, something that this one's wife would love to be but is never going to be able to achieve. Harry, of course, will not like the criticism that has come his way. His narcissistic trait of pride will see to that. But it also means that he will get a tongue lashing off this one's wife. Why? Because Harry is an extension of her. And the fact that he is being berated in this way and ridiculed brings shame on the House of Sussex. And therefore, that feels like a threat to control to her also. Accordingly, her narcissism will drive her to criticise Harry. "Look what you've gone and done again, Harry. It's like with Spare. I told you not to write those things," even though, of course, we all know that she did. "Look what you've gone and done now. You've got Joe Rogan taking the piss out of you. How does this look when we're meant to be doing serious things like going to Colombia not to take drugs? Here he is talking about getting high with you and calling you bitch. All the hard work that I do, all of the effort that I put in to ensure that we're taken seriously, that people invite us and pay us money so we can go to their little countries, all of it's going to be undone by your idiocy, you know." He will be receiving such a tongue lashing from her because it ultimately impacts upon her by way of a subconscious threat to control. His link to her as the intimate partner primary source means that she feels, if you will, the attack that comes from Joe Rogan as if it was almost directed at her. And in the circumstances, she has to distance herself from that, even though, of course, she was involved in the COVID misinformation. but she makes it as if it's all Harry's fault. He's the one that's caused the problems, he's the one that's generated the difficulties, and thus he gets a good telling off, which enables her narcissism to nullify the threat to control by blame shifting it onto Harry. Once again, the Sussexes, or at least one member of them, finds themselves under attack, this time from another famous person. It gets reported on in the press, which means that it's amplified, and of course it's problematic for this one's wife by virtue of Harry being an extension of hers. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.